Really wish that world leaders would stop coming to the Oval Office and meeting with Trump. He does not deserve to be normalized in any way, shape, or form. The only reason he invited the president of South Africa to the Oval Office was to push his propaganda. The entire hour interview was just him lying and pushing propaganda that white people are experiencing a genocide in South Africa, they're being unfairly targeted, yada, yada, yada. The same type of propaganda that's led to the indigenous population here in the United States nearly being wiped out.
Take your land, they take your land, and they kill you. It's okay, and they say it's okay to do. Now, we're going to talk about it, but this is a tremendous, look, this is a story recent. These are all people that recently got killed.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it can get any worse. These are and you know, the men that you saw, the people that you saw in that movie, those are officials. Those are people that were in office. They had one march, they had a dance in your parliament, whatever you may call it, legislature.
Let me clarify that.
Yeah.
Let me clarify that, because what you saw, the speeches that were being made, one, that is not government policy. We have a multi-party democracy in South Africa that allows people to express themselves, political parties to adhere to various policies, and in many cases, or in some cases, those policies do not go along with government policy. Our government policy is completely against what he was saying, even in the parliament. And they're a small minority party, which is allowed to exist in terms of our constitution.
But you do allow them to take land.
No.
You do allow them to take land.
Nobody can take land.
And then when they take the land, they kill the white farmer. And when they kill the white farmer, nothing happens to them.
No, there is
nothing happens to them.
There is criminality in our country. People who do get killed, unfortunately, through criminal activity, are not only white people. Majority of them are black people.
Trump is on a mission to embarrass us in front of every country in the world, except for Russia. He made us look stupid in front of Ukraine. He showed the Middle East how easy it is to buy him. And today, he tried to give a lecture about the history of South Africa to the president of South Africa. And everything he was trying to teach was wrong. It was like President Trump teaches at Bizarro School. Trump showed him a photograph of what he said was a burial site for 1,000 white farmers. The South African president looked at it and said, "That's not in South Africa." Trump tried to tell him there's a genocide going on of white people in your country. He said, "We have crime, but we do not have that, sir." I love when Trump is telling people from other countries about crime in their countries. I wish just one of them would be like, "Let's talk about crime in your country, sir, because you got a lot of guns on the street, you got a lot of criminals here, and you got a lot of people you have incarcerated. That is not good governance."
Is there a white genocide in South Africa?
No, there's no sign of it, never has been. In fact, whites are economically the strongest group. They benefited from democracy more than anybody else. 64% of all boardrooms in South Africa are still white. The average income of white South Africans are vastly higher than black South Africans. No. They have better schools, they have better education, they have private health care. This is the land of milk and honey if you're white.
Has any land been expropriated in South Africa without compensation since the first all-race election in this country?
I'm not aware of anyone. Not a single farm that I'm aware of was expropriated without compensation since 1994.
So how do we interpret President Trump's executive order?
It is possible that South Africa has offended the United States with his policy on the Palestinians, and it could be that with his policy on Russia, the ambiguities of those policies and its relationship with the Chinese. It could be. I think that does play a role. But there was something very, very sensitive that was touched upon. And in South Africa, right-wing groups, so-called civil society groups, we know that they have access to the Trump administration because they claim that. And if you listen to what Trump has said, it corresponds exactly with the genocide narrative that they sell and that they market, and that whites are victims of the democratic system and the constitution of South African legislation. So there's an overlay, there's an immediate overlay, it's an unquestionable overlay between what Trump says and these right-wing groups have said. So I'm afraid I have to believe them when they say they have direct access to the Trump administration, and we see it in what Trump has been doing.
So South Africa's commander-in-chief, President Ramaphosa, must have not been hip to what goes on in that Oval Office. I wish I could have personally warned him myself that if you're going to step into this space right here, it can go one of two ways. One way is what happened with the president of El Salvador in Bukele. Beautiful, cordial relationship building. The other is what happened with Zelensky. You come begging for money, you try to peacock, show your whole chest, and you get humbled. Now look, this is coming from a guy who spent 5 years of my life in South Africa. I am a Zimbabwean born, partially South Africa raised American citizen. And after seeing what I saw there, I have this to say. Whether or not you want to call what is currently happening to white South Africans or Boers, who are the farming class or the agricultural class of white South Africans, whether you want to call that genocidal or not, may be up to interpretation. But what you cannot deny is the fact that there is an anti-white movement. When I say anti, I'm not talking about some cute little sayings. I'm talking about an all-out attack. And I mean at the legislative level or at the governing level, as far as laws, as well as the sentiments of the people. And I really, truly hope for folks not to forget that the way in which you get to a Rwanda type situation, where one group is slaughtering the other, is because of allowing things such as what Julius Malema is doing, or essentially his push towards taking the lives of the Boers. That's how that starts. That's how that ends. If you want it to be a guaranteed genocide, because right now it's already threats to these people's lives. And anybody who tells you any different is lying, okay? I got family members still on the ground there. It's still very much a reality. But if you continue to endorse it and lie like the president was doing in that Oval Office before he got shown up when they turned those lights off and they showed that video, if you continue to lie, you are essentially enabling it. And once it does hit, we all know how that ends.
Wow, this is big and serious news. Donald Trump, the former US president, has just confronted South Africa's president. He says there is something very bad happening, a genocide of white farmers. He even showed what he says is proof. This is strong, this is shocking. Let's talk about what's going on.
Did anyone else see Donald Trump dim the lights in the Oval Office for the president of South Africa? Did y'all see him dim the lights? He did it like a teacher would teach one of his EBT children. He dimmed the lights and played to him what's going on in his country, since he seems to be uninformed. Salute for Donald Trump for having a moral compass to say, listen, boy, and I'm going to call you boy. Listen, boy, I don't like what's going on in your country. Fix it, or before we fix it for you. It's already somewhere that no one wants to inhabit. But Donald Trump laid the blueprint down and he said, fix it, boy. And you're going to fix it. We ain't going to have these good old people being slaughtered. No more. And if I hear about it again, boy, you got to call him boy sometimes. Let him know he ain't in Africa no more. This is America. In America, we follow the rules and everything be cordial. Salute to Donald Trump for putting that boy in his place.
Donald Trump just humiliated the president of South Africa. He just pulled the greatest Uno reverse move that's ever been recorded. So one of the individuals of the press asks Donald Trump this question, instigating him into a quote-unquote trap. What will it take for you to deny that white people from Africa are not being persecuted? Immediately, South Africa's president butts in saying, I will answer this. And Donald Trump's like, yeah, I want him to answer for me. And South Africa's president proceeds to basically say there is no white persecution going on in South Africa. But what this fool didn't know was that Donald Trump had receipts, because immediately after South Africa's president denied the persecution of white Afrikaners, Donald Trump said, dim the lights. And you could see South Africa's president begin to fidget and mumble in his seat like, oh, and Donald Trump's like, bro, dim the lights. He goes on to show videos of different types of militia that have publicly said that they were going after white farmers. Even shares news that CNN and MSNBC and also Reuters and all these other democratic platforms. And South Africa's president didn't know what to say after this. Until he finally admitted, well, yeah, I mean, there are those people, but they don't speak for everyone. That's just a small minority group. Full please.
Donald Trump is saying that white farmers in South Africa are being killed because of their race. He says this is wrong and it must stop. He showed videos and pictures and he said this is a kind of genocide. That means killing a group of people on purpose. He also said the world is not talking about it. He says it's being hidden. And now he wants the world to know. This is very serious. If what Trump is saying is true, then it's very bad. No group of people should be killed or hurt because of their race, their color, or their job.
Trump just did the most OG gangster thing that nobody thought was ever going to happen. And it raises one other question, and I'll address that a little bit further down. We're talking Africa. We're talking Southern Africa. For those who don't know, the black people are unaliving the white people, taking their farms. There's a whole bunch of rape going on of grandkids, children, wives, sons. I mean, the most heinous genocidal stuff is going on in that country. And that president who's on TV in his country saying it's okay to do it and promoting it is at the White House. They're live on TV in the Oval Office and Trump's playing it all for him on the television, showing him, his people and his military jumping up and down, dancing, saying in their own language to unalive the white farmer. And that man's just sitting there so uncomfortable and doesn't know what to do with himself. And what I said I'll share with you after, that should happen to the other guy, Bibi. But who knows if, I didn't expect this to happen to the African guy, but the fact that, we just had the whole white farmers come to America because they were going to be unalived over there, in his face, in the Oval Office on live TV. You guys got to see that and watch that man squirm in his, actually the lack of squirm. He don't know where to hide.
If you don't think Donald Trump is racist, then you did not just witness what happened between him and the South African president in the Oval Office while they were supposed to be discussing coming together on a bill. Donald Trump never gave a fuck about Gaza. He never gave a fuck about you. So for everybody who said, oh my goodness, we are voting for him because Joe Biden allowed a mass genocide to happen. Donald Trump just asked the South African president in the Oval Office why he allowed white refugees to go through a genocide in South Africa. Do you know how fucking crazy that is? The same white refugees he brought here to take all the farmland that the government seized that have no farming skills. Same immigrants from Africa that their entire lineage is known for killing Africans to take their land. Yeah, he just asked the president of South Africa, the black president, why he allowed them to experience a genocide and confronted him on a genocide in South Africa. That is not fucking happening, by the way. It's not happening. So for everyone who's like, oh, well, why would we vote for Biden? And did he ask the leader of Israel why he's encouraging a genocide? Or seizing the Gaza Strip? Or unaliving thousands of people daily? No, but he asked in the name of white refugees. Okay, what fucking timeline are we in? What fucking timeline are we in that our president is ignoring having parts in a war that has actively been an actual genocide, but instead turned to racism and these white refugees who literally are descendants of some of the worst racists in the world, and asked their president why he'd allowed them to experience genocide? That didn't happen. I need to get the fuck out of this place. I need to get out of this place. We're doomed. We're going the wrong way.
Donald Trump just got called out to his face by South African President Cyril Ramaphosa in the Oval Office. Now, the two leaders are meeting today to discuss the claims that Donald Trump has made about South Africa, specifically what's happening to certain farmers there. At one point, Donald Trump was asked, what would it take to convince you that these stories aren't true? And before Trump could respond, Ramaphosa jumped in and said this.
It will take President Trump listening to the voices of South Africans.
Yeah, it will take Donald Trump listening. And that was the theme of this entire meeting. Donald Trump has been constantly trying to insist that these things are happening in South Africa. He has accused the president of being behind this. Sometimes he does it, and each time the South African president pushes back and he says, look, we need to have a dialogue. We need to have a talk. At one point, he invoked Nelson Mandela. He has been very calm about it, but taking subtle jabs like this, and I say that's well done.
I saw the meeting that President Donald Trump had with the South African president, and it was interesting to say the least. I don't know where President Donald Trump is getting his information from, but he is convinced that all the media that he's seen around white South African farmers is just like the absolute truth. And I'm not saying countries don't have propaganda and don't manipulate media, but the South African president was just like, bro, that's not true. Well, he didn't say that's not true. What he said was farmers are getting, no matter what their race is. So it's just, it's odd that you're focused on the white farmers, but it's like we have a problem with farmers being like, people take land in South Africa. It don't matter what race you are. But President Donald Trump was not hearing. He had articles printed up. He even stopped the meeting to play some video. I couldn't see the video from my angle, but I heard it, and I know what video he was playing because I've seen that video. He was playing when some leader was singing that song, that South African song. They talk about the farmer and the boer and all that. Then he also showed a clip of the cars lined up riding past the white crosses that's been on social media. And people saying those are the white farmers that have been. And it was funny because the South African president was like, where is that? I've never seen that. And President Trump was like, oh yeah, that's the spot where, they buried all the white farmers and they go to appreciate them. They line up. And the South African president was like, I have no idea where that is. He was like, yeah, team. He's like, when we go back home, let's get on that. Let's find out where this place is. And President Donald Trump is just convinced that he's showing the president of South Africa more about his country than he knows. Oh my God. I applaud the president of South Africa's decorum during that meeting because he was so patient with President Donald Trump and saying, like, look here, at this point, I don't care what you believe. Let's just find a way to work together, to be partners, and and get along, trade, do whatever we got to do to be partners. Like, believe what you want to believe, bro. I'm here to work. I don't know about you. Oh, man, that meeting was way funnier than it should have been.
After making unsubstantiated claims about white genocide in South Africa in front of the president of South Africa, Donald Trump snaps and goes off on, I would say, an unhinged rant and confessing to crimes he would like to commit.
Heads chopped off. They died violently. And we're here to talk about it, and I didn't know we'd get involved here. But I will say this, that if the news wasn't fake, like NBC, which is fake news, totally, one of the worst, ABC, NBC, CBS, horrible. But if they weren't fake news like this jerk that we have here, if we had real reporters, they'd be covering it. But the fake news in this country doesn't talk about that. They don't want to talk about it, but now they have to talk about it. But they won't. This won't even be a subject. They'll have him talking about why did a country give a free, think of this, why did a country give an airplane to the United States Air Force? Okay? The United States, not to me, to the United States Air Force, so they can help us out, because we need an Air Force One until that's Air Force One, it's being built. 2 of them being built. But Boeing's a little bit late, unfortunately. So why did they give us a plane to the United States Air Force? That's what that idiot talks about after viewing a thing where thousands of people are dead.
I'm sorry, I don't have a plane to give you.
I wish you did. I take it. I would take it. If your country offered the United States Air Force a plane, I would take it.
Okay. Wow. But coming back to this issue, which I really would like us to talk about, and talk about it very calmly. We were taught by Nelson Mandela that whenever there are problems, people need to sit down around a table and talk about them.
Well, there are problems.
And this is precisely what we would also like to talk about, including, of course, trade matters, investment matters. So the issues that concern you as the United States.
Those are all recent. Those are all deaths.
Yeah, in many ways, one should say you are a partner of South Africa, and you are raising concerns, and these are concerns that
I've never seen so much disrespect coming from the President of the United States in my life. It's almost as if something about South Africa brings the worst out of him. Spreading baseless claims about genocide and running around accepting bribes, or basically suggesting that you would accept bribes, is totally un-American, and I don't understand how his supporters can continue to allow this type of behavior to become status quo.
Just say this once and for all. White lives matter too. I do not understand how people can live a life and not understand that we all matter equally. It's not just black, it's white people too. So that means when there's an injustice against white people, it's wrong. When there's an injustice against black people, it's wrong. I don't care what somebody did 1,000 years ago, 100 years ago, 50, 60 years ago. When a person is treated unfairly, no matter what the circumstance is, it's wrong. I don't care that white people used to own slaves. So did black people. Y'all don't want to have that conversation. Black people own slaves too. Hundreds of them own hundreds of black slaves. The first legal slave owner was a black man. Yeah, they literally lied to us about, and they were not authentic about what was actually happening during slavery. I took Africana studies in college. That's the only way that I learned anything reasonable about what happened. And I had to learn things after college. Like the fact that Harriet Tubman was married. Her husband was a free black man, and they lived together. She had a job. She would go to work and come back. She wasn't who, and I'm not saying that diminishes what she did, but she wasn't who people think she was. You have to ask yourself, how is it the way y'all say it was when she could live with a free black man and lived in the house with her and she was still a slave? That tells you that she wasn't in the field getting whacked over the head all day long, get whooped on the back. There was something else going on. The fact that a man who's black could go to court and sue to retain custody of 2 people for life in the 1600s, that something else was going on. The fact that you had most of the free blacks still lived in the South, where slavery was legal. Most black people still lived in the South. Anyway, I don't want to go through this. Let's watch.
Donald Trump seems to be on a mission to have ever increasingly embarrassing meetings in the Oval Office. Most recently, he hosted the president of South Africa, who he looked in the face and told, "Your country has a white genocide." And the president was like, "Well, respectfully, no, that's not happening." And Donald Trump's like, "Yes, it is." And then he pulled out evidence, only that evidence has all been debunked. Like, he showed a video of all of these little white crosses along a roadway. And Donald Trump said, these are burial sites right here. And then he said, each one of these white things you see is a cross. There's approximately 1,000 of them. They're all white farmers, the family of white farmers. Those people are all killed, Trump added. Yeah, so first of all, apparently people are just buried on top of each other along a roadway, by his logic. No, those are not burial sites, nor do they represent dead farmers, and you don't have to take my word for it. You can take the word of the man who put up those crosses. There were 2 farmers who were killed. And as part of a protest to that, they went along this roadway and put white crosses up that were then removed after the protest. They didn't represent individual people. It was just about these 2 people. Then Donald Trump showed a video where a person in a red beret repeatedly chants, kill the boer, kill the farmer, and speaks about taking land without compensation. That person is Julius Malema, who founded the small but radical party Economic Freedom Fighters after being expelled from the African National Congress, of which the president is a member. And after playing that video, the president explained to Donald Trump that does not represent the policies of this government. South Africa's opposition agricultural minister also said many parties had worked to keep extremists out of government. That guy and his group are extremists. They are not in power. And then Donald Trump pulled out a photo and he's like, these are dead white people who were killed in the genocide. The picture he's showing is from the Congo, because Africa is a continent that has many countries within it. It wasn't in South Africa that happened. It was in the Congo. And in response, the president of South Africa, who had to sit there and be berated by a man who confidently declared things that were categorically false and used evidence that was inaccurate and not true, his only response he could really say was, I'm sorry I don't have a plane to give you. Because apparently this administration, if you do something like gift them a plane, they forgive all kinds of terrible things. But today, my feed is full of conservative creators who all made the same video where they look at the camera and have music playing and they nod as text on the screen reads, Donald Trump confronting the president of South Africa about the white genocide is exactly what I voted for. Is it? You voted for theatrics based on conspiracy theories that are false, using fake information? That's what you voted for? Meanwhile, while you're celebrating this big W, more than 7 million could lose Medicaid in House mega bill approved Thursday. Yeah, they're going to take away Medicaid for a ton of people, not to mention all the food assistance programs that are being shut down that will affect children, will affect veterans, will affect seniors. And you're too busy looking over here as they snap their fingers and go, white genocide, look what's happening in South Africa, we got to help. And you're like, oh, that's terrible, as they literally rob basic shit from you, as they use your tax dollars to import white immigrants and simultaneously use your tax dollars to deport brown immigrants. And I'm all for people who need protection being allowed to come here and seek protection. But meanwhile, he's revoked the protection, the asylum status of thousands of Venezuelans, for example, who face actual real threats, while giving it to people who aren't facing the threats that he's made up. That's this administration.
So just a little while ago, Donald Trump had a meeting with Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa, and basically played video of him calling or alleging, violence against these white farmers. Now, the president of South Africa has said this is not the official stance of the South African government. There is no white genocide. But I'll tell you what, that meeting got pretty awkward whenever he began to play the video. This video has been online for quite some time. I remember seeing it, I want to say maybe last year, the year before, and was just thinking like, man, what's going on over in South Africa? But in light of everything that's going on in the United States having, allowed, I believe, 6,000 to 8,000 people to fill out asylum applications. Of those 6,000 to 8,000 people, 54 have been granted asylum here in the United States. And I'll tell you what, everybody was upset about it. But now that the president of South Africa has been confronted about it, we're going to see what's going on. The reason they're having this meeting is obviously there are some economic ties between the two countries, with South Africa sending their goods into the United States. I believe in September or towards the end of this year, the tariff agreement or the trade agreement is going to expire. And so now he's wanting to negotiate on it. Part of his thing, though, is he brought two professional golfers, I think Ernie Els and another one, to kind of bring in to ease the tension, right? Everybody knows that Donald Trump loves golf, but we're going to see what happens. All I got to say is that, you know what? I don't think that there would have ever been another world leader who would sit down next to another and play video of him the way that Donald Trump did.
So news out is that as part of the delegation to go see Donald Trump, Ramaphosa took none other than golfer Ernie Els. So the rationality of taking Ernie Els is that apparently Trump is a golf guy. And as a golf guy, he's really going to enjoy Ernie's company. He also took Johan Rupert, the South African businessman, and he took the token white guy, John Steenhuisen. So obviously the discussion around this is all going to be, see, there is no white genocide in South Africa. I can prove this because I got white friends. Obviously I've got white friends. There's John, there's Ernie. You like golf, Ernie's here. And then there's like Johan Rupert. And like, he's a businessman. There can't be expropriation. I mean, Johan's here. We're friends with him. So news came out yesterday that apparently Elon Musk was getting preferential treatment in order to get Starlink in South Africa. Now, there's a lot of people that are saying that this is a violation of the rules. But actually, when you look at the rules, there are exemptions for companies like large corporate companies like Microsoft and whoever else in terms of the BE compliance. And so according to the South African government, what they're doing is they're applying the existing exemptions that were given to Starlink in the first place in order to get Elon the deal. Now, why this is important is that today, the EFF has suggested that if this deal has been given to the racist that is Elon Musk, they will pursue court action against the government on the basis of basically bribery and corruption, because they're saying that by exempting Elon or Starlink to the existing legislation and the rules around BE, that effectively they're bribing Elon to invest in South Africa. Very weak argument. But, you know, according to the EFF, they can't have the racist Elon Musk in the country because he's racist and stuff. In any case, this is actually shaping up to be rather amusing, and I'll keep you updated as things progress.
Farmers help feed the country. They grow food, they work hard. I feel sad if people are dying. It doesn't matter if they are white, black, or any race. Every life matters. No one should live in fear. When Trump speaks, the world listens. Now the world is looking at South Africa. The leaders there say Trump is wrong. They say there is no genocide. They say there is crime but not a plan to kill white farmers. So now there are two sides. People are asking who is telling the truth. Is it really genocide or is this political talk? This makes it a very big and sensitive topic. I don't know everything, I'm not there, but I believe in peace. I believe in truth. If farmers are being killed, we must care. If people are lying, we must also know. I hope South Africa can be safe for all people, black, white, rich or poor. No more hate, no more killing. Let there be peace on the farms and in the cities. So this is a strong topic. What do you think? Do you believe Trump? Do you think the South African president is right? I want to hear your voice. Write in the comments. Let's talk with respect. And if you like news, please like, share, and subscribe for more everyday updates. I'll keep giving you updates in a way that is easy to understand. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye.